everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of The Police and the People. And I am joined by my ghost partner here, Joshua Stokel. Josh, we can't see him because his internet is terrible where he is right now. So we can't get video and audio. So we're just going to go with the audio. Right, Josh?
Yeah, trust me, if you had a choice of my face or the voice.
It's a blessing in disguise, huh? Oh, that's okay. Everyone can see me and my happy face here on the surface of the moon. I don't have a picture of the surface of Mars, but a big congratulations to NASA for landing yet another explorer on Mars. And this one has a helicopter with it. So they're able to not only rove around with a rover, but it can launch a helicopter to take aerial views and look around and capture any aliens that are up there on Mars. So congratulations to them. All right, so go ahead.
Ourselves on the show. Do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe in aliens? I think that it's impossible to say that there can't be life in the universe, because there's, as I understand it, in our universe, there are more stars than there are grains of sand on every beach in the entire world. So if you look at the sheer statistics, the sheer numbers, there's got to be solar systems out there where there are Goldilocks planets just like Earth. It's not too close, not too far away, where life can form. So in my opinion, I think definitely there is life out there. How intelligent it is, I'm not sure. How advanced, I'm not sure.
Let's consider the intelligence on this planet when, it's all
right? Yeah, the intelligence on this planet where they're canceling Dr. Seuss. Yeah, and I was listening to, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was saying that if we are ever visited by an alien culture, that chances are pretty good that they may be here to take over because there's nothing we can do. Because in order to get from, planets or star systems to star systems, the technology is so advanced that there's nothing we can do. You know what I mean? They would just be so technologically advanced.
Just hopefully, hope they're friendly, right?
Hopefully they're friendly.
Harvest us or something.
That's right. All right, Josh, why don't you take care of business a little bit and tell us a little bit about what our company, GSPCC, has coming up for law enforcement training.
Yeah, so we are Granite State Police Career Counseling. We are a emergency response, law enforcement, corrections, kind of all of the above training organization. We've got some great classes coming up.
Yeah.
April, we have interview and interrogation in Hampton, New Hampshire, on Hampton Beach. That's a great time to be there. It's just a nice time of year.
True.
As we're coming out of the winter. Hampton, we're actually going back there in May for field training officer and field training supervisor.
Yes.
Again, great times to be down on Hampton Beach.
Yep.
And then we have coming up in June, we have death investigations. That's a 5-day class. That's in Newington, New Hampshire. That's a fantastic class. And unfortunately, I think those are the only classes, just looking at my notes here, that we have spots in right now. Everything else is sold out and has waiting lists, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, it's a good problem to have.
Sure.
And we are still working at a lower capacity, lower volume for our classes because of COVID, because we want to keep people spread out. Hopefully that is going to end maybe by the fall.
Sure.
We will not have to do that any longer, and we can allow more people to come into our classes. But currently we do have to kind of set limits on the number that we're bringing in. And unfortunately that means people are on waiting lists or have to wait till the next one.
Well, I think the fact that it also limits the places we can go, right? Because we need training rooms that hold 40, 50 or more people so that we can run them at half capacity at 20, 25 people. so that we can spread everybody out 6 feet, wearing masks, doing the temperature checks, using all the sanitation stations that we use, make them safe environments. Happy to say that we have run how many trainings now in a row with no COVID issues, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Probably 9 or 10 COVID issues because we put these measures in place.
We have. Yeah. We want people to be safe. We understand that it's a virus that, you have a 99.98% chance of surviving. However, the problem that it really causes for your department is now if you come in close contact or if you have it, you're on quarantine.
Right.
And I remember one agency in New Hampshire, a lieutenant contacted me, and they weren't not a big department, maybe 10 full-time officers, and they had 5 that were on quarantine at one time. Yeah. So it puts a hardship on the agencies, and we don't want that. So we're going to make sure we have these safety protocols in place. All right. So today we're going to talk about, we got a leadership nugget for you today, and we're going to talk about situational leadership. This is something that we bring up sometimes in our class. However, if you go and if you Google situational leadership, chances are really good you're going to see something about Kenneth Blanchard and Paul Hersey. These are 2 guys that created a curriculum, and they call it situational leadership. And they got it locked down pretty tight. You may get some kind of peripheral stuff about what they're talking about, but you're not going to see all of it because you're going to have to attend their classes if that's what you want. But in reviewing it and understanding it, to me, situational leadership is just good leadership. And what do I mean by that? Good leaders, especially seasoned leaders, understand that you got to have a good tool belt of leadership tools, right? So that you know which tool to bring out in which situation, like a good carpenter does. If all you have is a hammer, then all you can do is beat on people, right? You're kind of the autocrat at that point. So good leaders understand that they can see a situation and they know kind of what to do. So an example of that would be, let's say you have on your shift 3 officers under your command, your direct command. You've got one that's a 10-year veteran, one that's a 5-year veteran, and one that's been on for about a year. So which one, if they're all pretty good police officers and do their job pretty well, which one are you probably going to pay the closest attention to? What do you think, Josh?
Well, I think you're going to pay the closest attention to the officers that don't have the most experience, right? I mean, you're going to allow your seasoned veterans. I hate to use that term laissez-faire. We talk about it a free rein in our leadership class, but you're going to allow your officers to play to their strengths. So that's, as we talk about situational leadership, I think that's a big piece of it, is being able to recognize what type of leadership each of your subordinates, your officers, whatever the case may be, recognizing what type of leadership each of them needs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I know in our class, we talk about mistakes that leaders make. In particular, we talk about micromanaging. And micromanaging overall is a bad thing. It's certainly bad. But there may be times when you bring out that micromanaging tool. Again, let's say you've got someone that's right out of FTO on your shift, and you just want to make sure that they're tracking in the right direction.
Yep.
So you're probably going to pay more attention to what they're doing. You're going to maybe read over their reports a little more thoroughly, right? And maybe give a little more feedback to this person, and which may kind of mimic some micromanagement. But again, it's just, you just want to make sure the person is tracking the right way. But then what a good leader will do is, if they are tracking the right way, is kind of scale it back, right?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you that I don't think that's micromanagement. I think that's mentoring.
Okay.
I think that, so, I mean, I agree with everything that you say except the title. And so, when you say that micromanagement is at times an effective and a necessary tool, I say no. But what I'll tell you is everything you just described, I would consider that mentoring, which is absolutely a worthwhile tool early on in a young police officer, or really any young professional's career. So that's where I think if you are mentoring a young person or a new person, that's great. When it continues throughout their career, that's where it turns into that micromanagement, which is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's just
work autonomously and you don't let them,
Yeah.
The goal is for you to help them become, we talk about autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah. And again, the reason I used micromanagement was because I read this in Jocko Willink's and Leif Babin's second book, which was The Dichotomy of Leadership. And where he kind of used those words. He said, you got someone new, you may kind of micromanage them a little bit, but maybe we'll call it like micromanagement light or micromanagement-ish, right? You're just paying more attention.
Yeah, when I think of what a mentor does, though.
Yeah, I like that too, though.
Yeah, that is part of the mentoring process, is to kind of run close to the herd for a little while and really be a support system for new employees and answer their questions, sometimes be proactive about it. Answer the question they haven't even asked sometimes, right?
Yep.
Kind of help them develop themselves as professionals. But again, coming back to situational leadership, you have to recognize when they are starting to break from the reins. You have to be able to say, okay, they're getting it now. I can cut the cord and let them be more autonomous now.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, that's when you start to micromanage.
Right. I just want to hit on this from an article here. The author is Luann Kelchner. And she says, well, she kind of defines situational leadership. It's a method of management or a management model where the amount of direction a leader gives to his employees is determined by each worker's abilities, skills, and level of maturity, which the whole level of maturity really kind of made me chuckle because you and I have both worked with some people that were certainly less than mature in our days. Yeah. But I thought that was pretty good. So you can see, a worker's abilities. So we go back to the new person, right? They just haven't developed those abilities yet. So you're going to be a mentor to them, as you mentioned. Their skill sets. You may have someone that's been on for 5 years, but yet they're still struggling in certain areas, right? So your leadership approach may be, all right, enough of this. We've got to get this person trained. So now you put on your training hat, right?
Well, that's where the coaching can come in too.
Coaching as well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Which coaching, training, mentoring, they all have similarities, right? But they also have some of their differences. I always, playing sports, I said, you can spend time teaching athletes, but you also spend time coaching them. When you're teaching them, you're talking about fundamentals. When you're
fundamentals and skills, yes.
Yeah, and then when you're coaching them, now you're talking about, use that word again, situations, right? Now you're preparing them for certain situations. They've already developed those fundamental skills, and now you're helping them become prepared for certain situations.
Right.
So that's why I think that situational leadership and situational awareness goes with that, are so important because the leader needs to be able to morph him or herself into the personnel that they have, right?
Yep.
Because if you try to force all of those round pegs to fit in the square hole, you're in trouble. You need to figure out a way to make the hole round so they can fit into it, right? Or, you need to be flexible because you can only do so much to change your employees. And you shouldn't want to. You shouldn't want, you want them to be individuals. You want them to bring their individual skills and strengths to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, a key leadership component here is that you need to be on top of understanding their skill sets and
Right.
their maturity levels and what it is they need, because the laissez-faire leader is not going to know this. They're not going to notice it,
And
right?
you know that autocratic leader, because they those types of leaderships, they're on either end of the spectrum, right?
Yep.
They're the polarization of leadership. They don't learn how to tap into the potential of their employees.
Right. Yep.
But
Yeah.
that democratic leader, right, or that participatory leader, they are able to tap into the strengths of their employees, which makes for a stronger team, a more well-rounded team, which is
Yeah.
really what we're looking for, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So in this situational model here, what would you say is probably one of the most important characteristics a leader could have to be able to be flexible like this, to be able to read situations and know what to do?
Well, I think leaders have to have frame of reference. And what I mean by that is, if you are a leader that only knows one way,
Right.
or does not have diversity in your tool belt, right? Only do it this one way, or I've only learned from one type of leader in my career. It can be really, really difficult to have that flexibility, to have that perception, to have that self-awareness that you need for situational leadership. And to give you an example, I worked for somebody once who they had been kind of indoctrinated into a certain style of police work. They
Yeah.
worked for other leaders who were all kind of cut from the same mold. So they just basically followed the playbook, right?
Yep.
I used to always say, good boss, but can't audible. Almost like the quarterback, that comes up to the line of scrimmage, sees that the defense is changing up, and decides, I'm going to audible. I'm going to change the play based on what I'm seeing out here.
Yep.
So I worked for that type of leader that just couldn't audible. Then I worked for another one that had no problem delegating tasks to officers who were capable of it. Didn't give people tasks that they couldn't handle.
Yep.
Goldilocks tasks, right?
Yep.
Not too hard, not too soft.
Yep.
Just right. Gave the employees Goldilocks tasks, built them up, built up their skills, built up their confidence, and then took everybody's strengths and melted them into the team, right? Because that supervisor had a frame of reference. That supervisor had worked for other types of supervisors, had learned from their strengths and weaknesses, and then built up his tool belt so it was very diverse. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to be like him.
Okay. Would you say that it's pretty important for situational leadership for a leader to truly know the people that work for him, to get to know them on a personal level?
Yeah, and it's funny. Somebody once asked me, why do you think you're a good boss? And I said, I know the names of my people, the children of the people that work for me. I know the names of their husbands and wives. I know where they live. I don't mean that like a weird. I'm saying I know the communities that they live.
Right.
I take time, just 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, to talk with them. And part of that is because I truly wanted to know. I was interested. You know what I mean? I was interested in who they were as people. Maybe that's what made me, effective, right? Is that it wasn't forced either. It wasn't, I wasn't running a scam at them or trying to make them think I cared when I really didn't. I truly was interested in knowing, some of their life's experiences and so on and so forth. So you have to walk that fine line though, right? Because you can't, when you're the boss, you can't be buddy.
True.
Right? You and I talk about it at length, right? We always talk about I call it the buy the first round rule, right?
Yep.
He gets together after work.
Yep.
Good leader goes, buys the first round, maybe has a quick bite to eat, and then gets out of there quickly, right? So the team can bond together without the leader there.
Yep. But you have enough presence that they connect with you, but then you let them be so they can crap on you and and vent and whatever they have to do.
That's part of the team building, right? Is
Yeah.
with the boss, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you want them to do that. That's the time to do that. You don't want them doing it when they're at work and they're supposed to be productive. They do that when they're blowing off steam later on. So yeah, I think you have to walk that fine line where you care about them, but you don't compromise yourself by being buddy-buddy with them,
Yep, I agree. I think another important component of situational leadership is the evaluation process.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is you need to, when you sit down with your people, and that I emphasize in our leadership class that your discussion should be more about the future than the past. You should talk about the past, absolutely, what they did right, what they did wrong, all that. But then where are they going? What are they doing? And that's when you really get an idea who this officer is and what it is they want to be, what they want to do. If they strongly say, I want to be an investigator, I want to be a detective. Now situationally how you can possibly help them, what you can delegate to them, what you can maybe try to get them for training in the future. Which is, again, situational. It's going to be different for each officer you have, but it's so important that you sit down and have that conversation with them so you have that background and insight in what it is that they want to do. And this will pay off dividends in the future. One, they're going to certainly respect you more, but also you're thinking about the department. You're thinking about the future of the officer, which is thinking about the future of the department and their development.
And
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So
I want to ask you a question though about the evaluation. Did you kind of staying with situational leadership, right?
Yep.
So a good leader understanding how to I'm going to use that term, morph themselves to be supportive of their employees. But what about when you have an employee who their goals are maybe unrealistic?
Oh, good question.
They come into evaluation time, right? And you start discussing, we talk about like the 80-20, right? You spend a little bit of time talking about the past and, what needs to improve, what went well, what didn't. And then you spend a lot of time talking about the future. What if they say, I want to be an investigator, but because you've done your homework as a leader and got to know them as an employee, you've gotten to learn what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And you're thinking in your mind, this person's strength is not investigation.
Right.
Their strength might be something completely different. It might be traffic accident investigations. It might be traffic enforcement. They might be a really, really sound tactical operator. It might be policing. There could be all kinds of other things that they're strong at, but it's not the thing that they are stressing they want to do. How do you handle it?
That's a tough one because you don't want to crush them, but at the same time, you have to be realistic. And I suppose the way I would approach it, I can't recall ever having a situation like that, but it's, you got to be honest. You can't be part of trying to send them down a path where they're going to fail.
It's not good leadership.
That's not good leadership.
Just to make them happy, you're not doing
right. Yeah, what you may want to emphasize and bring up is, hey, I've looked at some of your work in the past, your investigations, and a good investigator is going to do this. It's going to have tenacity. It's going to look, 3 moves ahead. It's like playing chess here. And what I see from you is very basic and foundational. Unless you develop this mindset, then I don't think this is a good path for you to follow. However, I've seen that you're good at this. Maybe this would be a good path for you to follow if you're interested in doing it. And if they come back and say, hey, I really want to be an investigator, I suppose I would say, well, here are the skill sets you need to work on, right? And so this is your goal now, is to develop these skill sets before I start investing money in investigation classes, et cetera, and moving you in that path. Is that something that you would do?
Well, I mean, I've had that type of situation. And
really?
I did some of those things that you just talked about was stressed what the officer was good at, right?
Yeah.
Tried to find a way to marry their goals with their strengths in a way that benefited the organization, right? Because you don't do things just to keep the employee happy, right? You want to keep the employee happy when you can, but you've got to put the needs of the organization first, right?
Yes. Yep.
The organization needs of the employees in that order.
Yep.
So if they insist, kind of like what you talked about, well, I want to be whatever it could be. I want to be a tactical operator. I want to be an investigator. That's where I think you have to establish those benchmarks that they're going to have to hit.
Yes.
Okay, well then I will support this, provided you are ready to be successful doing A, B, C, D, whatever the case.
Right. You got to give them a plan.
Right. You set the plan up. If they don't follow the plan, then you can't support their efforts anymore. And it has to be in the interest of the organization. Because like you said, you don't want to waste the money, you don't want to waste the investment of the organization on the person if they have a different skill set. That's the key. Is as a leader, you want to recognize what people's strengths are and invest the organization's efforts in seeing them develop those skills even further, so that can be their contribution to the team.
Yep. I agree. Well, all right, my friend, we're about out of time here. So we understand that situational leadership is just as it sounds. It depends on the situation. It depends on the person. It depends on the circumstances that are happening at the moment, which will dictate what leadership approach you take. The big takeaway here is if you have a one tool fits all mindset, then you're not going to be a very good situational leadership. Maybe in that one circumstance where that one tool works, yeah, it's going to be great. But then the whole other times, you're just going to fail. You're not going to do very well at all. So that's the key takeaway.
Yep.
All right, everyone. So I ask that you please subscribe on, we're pretty much on all podcast platforms now. So whichever one you like, please subscribe to our podcast. Give us the 5 stars if you will. We're trying. Josh and I are not professional broadcasters, so we're working hard at this. Our biggest mission here with the podcast is to bring perspectives with respects to leadership and what police do and why they do it, and what civilians think of that, and what their approach is, which is something we need to do in the future, Josh. We need to bring on some more civilians onto the show to talk about different perspectives.
Yep.
Also, if you'd like to support our podcast, to help us pay the bills, you can go to patreon.com/thepoliceandthepeople. And please donate something, even if it's a couple of dollars a month. We would greatly appreciate that. So that is it, everyone. Josh, you have anything? Any parting thoughts?
It's nice to be back. I had to miss a couple episodes. I had to turn it over to our good friend Phil White. I think that was a terrible mistake because he basically picked on me the whole time.
He's got those California cojones. In other words, he does it when he's out in California. But...
Right. That's what I mean. He's one of those like telephone tough guys, right? So
right. Keyboard balls, right?
I'll be seeing him again in May. If you're listening, Phil, May's going to come up quick, and sooner or later the chickens come home to roost.
And you can always put him up in the that hotel he was in Dover.
Yeah,
to punish him.
That may be taking it a little too far.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you later. Take care.
Take care.